going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. Another live stream, another video, because it's all going off when it comes to Manchester United and transfers, but this time not so positive, not so good, because not only has the bid for Sofyan Amrabat been rejected, but the bid can only be described as embarrassing by Manchester United. We'll give you details on that. Plus, the other midfield target we possibly had, Ryan Gravenberch, looks like he could be off to Liverpool, as Liverpool are negotiating a permanent transfer for the Bayern Munich midfielder as well. The question then becomes, what next? What is Manchester United going to do next? One person possibly leaving is Donny van de Beek. We spoke about that earlier on. Looks like he could be headed to Turkey, as Galatasaray have now put a bid in, but he could go elsewhere too. And also Hannibal could be out of the door as well, possibly on a loan to a Premier League club or possibly to Spain as well. But we have to start off talking about Sofyan Amrabat, because we spoke earlier on. David Ornstein spoke that United were working on a deal and a bid was probably going to go in. A bid hadn't gone in just yet, but we were going to be working on a deal, a loan deal for Sofyan Amrabat. Finally, we said, finally. It was like that, wasn't it? Finally, after all summer of him waiting, segregating himself from the Fiorentina squad, finally he's going to get what he wants. United are going to put a bid in. We just got 20 million from Dean Henderson. Come on, come on. We're gonna get the player now. Come on. And we did put a bid in that was immediately rejected by Fiorentina, because Fiorentina are rejecting loan bids unless they have an obligation to buy. But it's really the details of the bid that really show what kind of dire financial situation Manchester United kind of find themselves in right now. Because let's get straight into this, guys, because honestly, nothing surprises me anymore with Manchester United. But it was reported by James Horncastle, of course, well renowned for his knowledge of Serie A, works for the Athletic as well, and also Dan Sheldon as well, covering Manchester United and Manchester City for the Athletic. It was reported that Manchester United's €2 million bid to loan Sofyan Amrabat from Fiorentina has been rejected. Now, again, let's get into the details, the nitty-gritty of this bid before I give you some more opinion on it, because honestly, it's staggering. It really is. So, James Horncastle has said that the details of Manchester United's loan offer for Sofyan Amrabat were €2 million in two €1 million installments. But there was a break clause effective in January, which would have come prior to the second installment. So essentially, what we did is we offered €1 million to loan Sofyan Amrabat. Guaranteed. We said €1 million. That's what we'll do to take him off your hands for a year.
Tell me he didn't just say that.
I mean, in what reality would that ever be accepted? In what reality? Sofyan Amrabat is one of their best players. Granted, his contract's expiring in a year's time, but they're still right to get at least some money for him. €1 million up front, and then you put in a break clause to kind of suggest, actually, we might send him back in January before you get the second €1 million. I mean, it's just, I can't believe that, honestly. €2 million offer, €1 million up front. Of course they said no. Of course they said no. Now, to continue with the details of it, talks are ongoing between Manchester United and Fiorentina for Sofyan Amrabat. They're set to continue. Fiorentina obviously prefer a permanent sale, while a loan with an obligation is also an option, but they value the player reportedly at €35 million. So I'm looking at this going, wait a minute. Man United have offered a 2 million, it's not even really worth calling it a €2 million loan fee, because it's a €1 million loan fee initially. €1 million loan fee initially for a player they're saying they value at 35. How on earth are Manchester United supposed to find the middle ground in that? Or what is the middle ground in that? I suppose the middle ground is a loan with an obligation to buy. We'll buy him for €30 million next summer or something like that. But have United even got that money to spend next summer? I mean, and realistically, what this has shown us today, I think, is just how badly of a financial situation Manchester United find themselves in. Because it was also reported by Alfredo Padula that Nottingham Forest, we just beat them in the Premier League at the weekend. They had a deal agreed with Fiorentina, around sort of 20 million. Deal agreed, permanent thing. And Sofyan Amrabat said, no, I'm not going to Nottingham Forest. I don't want to go to Nottingham Forest. I want to go to Man United. But the problem is, Man United ain't got any money. Man United ain't got no cash or financial fair play. I don't know. But for a club of the stature of Manchester United, who find themselves in a situation, you know, with a few days left of the transfer window, to put that in as a bid, I'm just flabbergasted. And like I said, I know that they've said talks are going to continue, talks are going to be, you know, ongoing. But in terms of an offer, what are Fiorentina supposed to do in that instance, in all reality? Now, again, Fabrizio Romano is saying that Manchester United's loan offer for Sofyan Amrabat today was a verbal proposal through intermediaries. Fiorentina are open to a possible loan with an obligation to buy, but again, what kind of finances are we actually dealing with at this point? Because this now screams of January all over again. I posted that on X, Twitter, whatever it's called at this point. So it's January all over again. That we're now into the realm of loans with really no cash. You know, a very small amount up front we can give you, and that's just about it. And maybe that lends into the situation that why this was all so quiet for days and weeks about Amrabat, because in reality, maybe we can't afford him. And maybe we'll try, we'll put something together, but talks are ongoing. So it's not dead in the water or anything like that. Romano's saying that United are going to keep pushing, but I mean, I don't want to sound negative on this, and I really, 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 really hope I'm wrong. Really hope I'm wrong with it. But at the same time, like I said, there's a heck of a middle ground to find there between United and Fiorentina with a couple of days to go. Nevertheless, United are going to keep pushing. Talks are going to remain ongoing. I think the biggest thing we've got going for us at the moment is Sofyan Amrabat wants this move, and this is the only move that he wants. So if he's continued to push Fiorentina, this is the move I want, this is the move I want, I'm not going anywhere else. Anything else that comes in, I'm turning down, like he did with Forest, like he did with some Saudi clubs, like he'll continue to do, I guess. But what happens if United just throw their hands up? Don't have the money, mate. Because, again, and it's just one of those situations where, again, people are laughing. They really were. I mean, I read that when I was reading the details of what James Horncastle was saying. You can't, I mean, he described it as a derisory €1 million, and it would be guaranteed, and it's true. Bear in mind, think of the people we've sold for €1 million this year. We sold Zidane Iqbal for that amount. Didn't we sign Sal Amaran for that amount of money too? So are we saying they're the same value? Is that what we're really saying? It's just, it's absolutely ridiculous. And to top it off, I guess I might as well merge these two into one, then we can sort of talk about it a little bit longer. But Ryan Gravenberch, he's heading to Liverpool seemingly, because Liverpool look to have, I say hijacked this deal, but they were interested in him anyway, and they do have the money to spend. They proved that they have the money to spend when they bid for Caicedo, and now seemingly they're going to go for Ryan Gravenberch instead. It was broken by none other than David Ornstein. I don't want to log on to Ornhub at this point. Frankly, I've done too much of it today, logging on Ornhub. Liverpool are in negotiations with Bayern Munich for a permanent signing of Ryan Gravenberch. Not guaranteed to happen, but the clubs are discussing price, and if finances are right, a formal offer is to follow. The 21-year-old wants Liverpool FC. He wants the move. Bayern Munich would need to replace, which Bayern Munich are looking to do, seemingly. McTominay's been linked. The Fulham midfield has been linked. They've been linked to other midfielders, but the fact that Ornstein's saying that Liverpool are in for Gravenberch, they're talking to Bayern Munich about Gravenberch, and if everything's right, they're going to put a bid in, that's not good either. So we now are in a situation we find ourselves in whereby, I mean, the sirens are going, because it's criminal. I mean, it is. Put the sirens in the chat. I mean, we find ourselves in a situation, if we were talking before, that it was like, okay, we've got three midfielders we're possibly looking at. Amrabat, Gravenberch, Højbjerg. Well, Amrabat, we've put a loan bid in, €2 million, €1 million up front. Fiorentina, essentially, I don't know the translation in Italian, told us to piss off. And rightfully so, because they went, seriously? Gravenberch, we're looking at him, and it's like, well, I'm going to Liverpool now, mate. So, sorry about that. And Højbjerg, well, I don't even know. I don't even know at this point. It makes you wonder, though, can we afford anyone, realistically? I mean, let's take a step back. Let's take a step back and think about Amrabat, Gravenberch, Højbjerg, whoever. Can we even afford that midfielder realistically at this point? I mean, it looks like Cucurella is going to happen. Is that going to dry up the finances? I mean, I'm looking at the goalkeeper that we're getting, and that's what, like £5 million or something like that. I thought that was small money to United. That's big. That's big cash. I mean, we're really splashing out at the moment. £5 million. We don't really have that money to spend, and it's just typical. I mean, as if there's not more chaos surrounding the transfer window at the moment, as if it's not that we are at panic stations, as if it's not that we are trying to make the best out of a bad situation. We've got injuries. The business that we've done, 2 of them are out of injury at the moment. The third, Onana, he's going to be out for 5 weeks in January as well. Factor in the injuries, factor in some of the performances we've been doing recently. We are at panic stations. And this is what makes me laugh, because sometimes people will say to me, "Oh, you're being negative. Why are you being so negative? Come on, you got to support the players." Well, someone support the players, but I mean, how can you look at what's happening today and say that this is positive, this is good? And actually, I'll put a poll in the chat at this point. Do you think we're going to sign a midfielder? I mean, do you think we're going to sign a midfielder? Do you think we will sign a midfielder? Yes or no? Because I think, honestly, that bid that's gone in for Amrabat today is a real indicator of where Man United are financially, honestly. And that's really worrying. That's really concerning, because not only, now in the summer window of FFP, what happens if we need to spend in January as well? If January, something's going well for us, or it's not going well, and we need to spend in January, we need to go big in January, can we even do that? Probably not. It's looking like a January of last year. Why? Because right now it's looking like January of this year, of last season. Right now it's looking like January of this year, because we're into the territory of scraping and scrimping to get money together, and players that we thought you were in for, Cody Gakpo, Ryan Gravenberch, is going to Liverpool or going elsewhere. Why? Because we can't really afford anything else as well. And it's just, I mean, is it even frustrating anymore? Is it even surprising anymore? Probably not really. I mean, put it on the thumb, what a mess. That's what it's in. What a mess. And then when you step back and look at the bigger picture, you've got the owners, the Glazers, have the nerve to be like, we want 6 billion quid. We can't even put up 2 million euros together to sign Sophie and Amrabat, and you're going on about 6 billion quid. I mean, again, it's just ridiculous. It really is. Super chat here. Here we go. Super chat from Mario says, maybe we want to cancel in Jan when we sold to Qatar. Honestly, as well, when I saw that, the Amrabat thing as well, like James Horncastle was saying, that first of all, that would imply that there wasn't an obligation to buy. There wasn't even an obligation to buy on that loan bid, which again is, I remember I said earlier on, I went, well, they would surely, the way that it would work would be that, you'd put the bid in, because he's got a year left on his contract, but there's the option to extend it. Even if there isn't an option to extend his contract, they'd work something out where he signs a new 1-year deal on the current terms or something like that, with the understanding of, but United are going to buy you in a year's time. But United, it looks like United legitimately put a bid in for a guy with a year left on his contract for 2 million euros, 1 million euro up front, and then had a break clause in January so they could walk away. So potentially they could only have to spend 1 million euro anyway and not give the other half. But honestly, it baffles the mind. It boggles the mind. That is, so much of a shambles. So much of a shambles. I don't even know. I really don't. What else are people saying in the chat at the moment? Let's have a look at some of the members. JB saying, I'm honestly so disheartened by United. I don't have the energy to keep up anymore. VCover says Gravenberch is great. Well, some people were saying, how good is Gravenberch? The thing is, it's almost irrelevant. Clearly, Gravenberch's a decent player. He got moved to Bayern Munich in the first place. Maybe it hasn't worked out there, but he's still incredibly young as well. He's 21. So there's still, if it hasn't worked, I mean, at that age, if it hasn't worked out, there's still a high possibility it can work out elsewhere. There's something about him, clearly. And, if at this point, it's just, we need someone, and we need someone of quality, and he'd fit into that mold. And it felt like, again, because of the Ten Hag relationship, because they were looking for a new 6 in Bayern Munich, like a loan would be feasible there as well. But also, in addition to that, could we even afford the Gravenberch loan? Probably not if we tried to do it. If we're putting in €2 million with 1 million of it being up front for Sofyan Amrabat, how on earth would we be able to afford Ryan Gravenberch? And to be honest, as I mentioned, it makes me worried about any future business for the remainder of this window. Probably going to get Cucurella. And if anything, maybe the injuries to the left back and United being forced into getting a left back has kind of scuppered their midfield plans, where they're like, shit, what are we going to do now when it comes to getting a midfielder? Because we don't really have any money left. And we'll talk a little bit about Donny possibly going to Turkey or Hannibal. That's what I might be looking into. Loan for a loan, as I mentioned earlier on. Or that goes back into the inability to effectively sell players and move them on has cost us again. Because if we sold Donny, even if it wasn't for a massive amount of money, because he wouldn't go for a huge amount of money, that would actually sufficiently help us be able to put at least a loan bid in that was feasible for Sofyan Amrabat. And it's crazy. It really is. Rory says, could they be trying to stop the United tax? I don't even think it's that. I think at this point, honestly, Rory, if they had the money, they'd pay a United tax. They're that desperate. We're that desperate for bodies at this point. We've just got no cash. We've got no cash or FFP. I don't even know if it's an FFP thing either, really, because we've seen that FFP really isn't all that. It's a joke. Yeah, we got a fine, but Chelsea are clearly bending the rules of FFP, so much so that they had to literally alter the rules when it came to transfer fees being spread out across people's contracts. City, do we have to say, was it 115 charges, whatever it may be at this point? And I think if United were, they probably would bend the rules at this point, maybe. But now it's almost to the extent of there's no money. There's no money to bend any rules. We can't do anything. And it looks like the ending of the window might be the goalkeeper and Cucurella. It might be that. I mean, as they say, look, talks are still ongoing, so there is certainly still hope that the pursuit isn't over or anything point like that. As I mentioned, if you are just joining us, this bid has been rejected. A €2 million loan bid for Sofyan Amrabat has been rejected. According to The Athletic, the talks between Manchester United and Fiorentina for Amrabat, though, are set to continue ahead of Friday's deadline. Fiorentina obviously prefer a permanent sale, while a loan with an obligation is also an option. They value the player at €35 million. The thing I will also say, though, is that surely, if you knew that Fiorentina were open to a loan with an obligation, and considering how close you are to the deadline, wouldn't you just go in with that straight away? I know we said before when we were negotiating permanent transfers, you start off low and you work your way up and you meet somewhere in the middle because the selling club comes down, you come up, you meet in the middle. That's just classic negotiation. But when you've got 2 days left, and you know the exact circumstances of what it's going to take to actually recruit that player, you don't lowball them. You don't lowball them straight away. You put the bid in. And even if you go, we cannot buy you, we do not have the money to purchase you at this point, we can't even offer lower than really what they're looking for. It'd be significantly way, way, way lower. So we know they never accept it. The only way we can get you is a loan with an obligation to buy. Surely you'd put that in straight away. Like, you wouldn't put €2 million in with 1 million up front and possibly never intending on putting the second million ever in if you had the money to do it. So, to be honest, as I said, I think it really speaks to a much bigger, wider problem for United at this point. Once again, when it comes to the Gravenberch situation, Fabrizio Romano has said that Liverpool have approached Bayern Munich for Ryan Gravenberch today, as reported by David Ornstein. Contacts between Gravenberch's camp and Liverpool reported 10 days ago. He's open to joining Liverpool. There's been no formal bid as the deal depends on Bayern. No decision yet on Gravenberch. But, I mean, you would think, to be honest, I'm looking at those two deals, and if I asked you in the chat at this point, what deal is more likely to happen, Amrabat to United or Gravenberch to Liverpool, let me know your response, and I'll give you mine very shortly. But I think we'll probably be on the same page when it comes to that. When it comes to that one, because we know there's two clubs there. One that bid £115 million for a midfielder. They didn't end up getting him. They ended up buying someone from the Bundesliga, but there's money to be spent there. Whereas us, we just put in €2 million for a loan bid that got rejected. Exactly. that's the real concern, isn't it? And I said this to people at the time, and I get football banter. I get it. But, you know, when they signed Endo, and all these people were laughing at Liverpool, going, see, they signed Endo, they signed Endo. I said at the time, be careful. Be very, very careful, because they've got the money. We know they've got the money in their pocket. And we know this is how transfer windows work. There is a small pool of players that are available at any one point. We know the midfielders that are available right now are Gravenberch, Amrabat, Højbjerg now. A couple other ones in there as well. I said, be very careful, because they'll bid. We know. We know they'll bid, and we know we won't, because we don't have the money. And that's what's happening at this point. Unless United figure out a way in the next 48 hours when it comes to Amrabat that, yeah, we figured out a way, loan, obligation to buy, that's what we're doing. But I'm not confident. I'm going to be honest. If you're coming on here for me to give you optimism, I'm not sure I have it at this point, realistically. A couple of super chats, then I'll get to your chats in the live chat as well. Don F says, Owen, this super chat is to pay for Amrabat. Get him in. We'll buy him as well. We'll add to the €2 million. Yes. Ahmad's been a member for 6 months. Appreciate 6 months of support. Says, I think overachieving last season really hurt our hopes of seeing the Qatar bid accepted. Low key hoping we have a bad enough season to CSL. Well, like I said, I don't want to see a bad season or anything like that. But what else are people saying in the chat? So I asked the question, what deal was more likely to happen? Actually, to be fair, I'll put it in the poll, because this poll's been up for 10 minutes now. So it says at the moment, in the poll, it's been up for 10 minutes, nearly over 550 votes. Do you think we will sign a midfielder? And it's close. It's very, very close. Just shading it is yes with 54%, no with 46%. I'm going to put a new poll in the chat. And the question is, which deal is more likely to happen? Actually, I should probably do it this way, because this is a three-pronged, actually a quadruple poll. This is a big one. So the question is, which deal is more likely? And it's Amrabat to United, Gravenberch to Liverpool, and then you've got to put in both, and then you have to put in neither. There you go. Check my spellings right. There you go. Poll is in the chat. This is quite an interesting one, certainly. Honestly, what do I think is the most likely one at this point? I would lean towards Gravenberch to Liverpool, honestly. Both happening. No, I think neither's very unlikely. I'd be quite surprised if neither Liverpool or United ended up getting sort of their midfield choices. But it just feels very unlikely at this point. Red says the negative. Here we go. Red says the negative view. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I wish I could give you some positive news. But if you ask me, Owen, do you think we'll get Sophie and Amrabat? Now, I'm very 50-50 on it. Earlier on, I was much more confident. When the news first came out, it was loan bid, it was rejected, I went, that's okay, because, you know, that's negotiating. But it was more when the details of the bid really started to come to light, and again, just really the derisory amount of money that United had put in for Amrabat, I thought, oh my God. Honestly, I was like, this United, honestly. So it's going to be interesting. As I mentioned, the poll is in the chat. Which deal is more likely? Amrabat to United, Gravenberch to Liverpool, both or neither? And so far, Gravenberch to Liverpool is kind of leading the race a little bit here. I've also just seen that Chelsea have got a here we go for Cole Palmer from Manchester City. Fee in the region of 40 to 45 million pounds. And what was I saying earlier on, guys? The key to almost City's success at the moment is that what are they doing? They're selling these like players that come through their academy, these young players. And what does that count as? Pure profit from FFP. And we're just so far behind the curve when it comes to any form of negotiation. It's madness. Absolute madness how they operate. I mean, obviously, 115 charges, and we'll keep saying it, but meanwhile, they're selling youth products for 45 million. We're literally pennies going, there's €1 million, Amrabat. What about the second one? It'll come in January. What about that break clause you put before it? Ignore it. It'll be fine. Yeah, it's just it's wild what's going on with Manchester United at the moment. It really is. So we'll keep that poll on going. Already we've got over 300 votes in it actually as well, and 31% of you say Amrabat to United's more likely. Gravenberch to Liverpool is the most likely according to you guys, 41%. Both is at 15, neither is at 12 as well. And as Joe Blackman says, this is an important point here. We currently have nearly 1,400 people watching, which is great for an emergency, random, middle of the evening, afternoon, morning, depending where you are, stream. So if you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well. Less than 100 to go until 151,000. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. I mean, honestly, guys, stay tuned because the next couple of days, I think, are going to be a madness. I mean, obviously, the next few days of the transfer window before the deadline on Friday, with the way United are moving, there's going to be so much going on at the moment. In addition to that, we do have a game at the weekend, the small task of travelling to the Emirates to face Arsenal. So there's going to be loads of content about that as well. So it's going to be a busy few days. Red Baron with the super chat here says you have to be sceptical about the Sales City Sal Owen. That's a difficult. Sales City Sal Owen. They have subsidiary clubs all over the world. Well, that's true. They do have subsidiary clubs all over the world, but one of them isn't Chelsea, in fairness. Because Chelsea spent 45 million quid on them. You know, that's just, and it's frightening too though with City too, is that you see, I don't know about you, sometimes I'll be watching City play and they'll bring on some youth kid that you've never even heard of plays. You go, he's unbelievable. And he's great. And you go, shit, even if he doesn't make it at City, he's going to be sold for like 40 million or something like that. It's just, again, and then meanwhile, other side of the city, we've got parasitic owners leeching off the club. We've got like nearly $1 billion in debt. The only money they put in is to pay off interest in, well, they don't put any money, they just take it out. But the only sort of, you know, things, we've got to pay off some interest on the debt. We don't pay off the debt, we'll just pay off the interest on it occasionally. And stadiums falling apart, training grounds a mess, transfers like now where you want to be proactive and you want to be available to get good players and help out your manager, support your team. Can't do that because we don't have any money. Women's team, academies team, I mean everything else. And then the other side of the city, you see this Etihad complex being built. You know, with stadium, which they're expanding the Etihad. Why? No one goes in there anywhere, but they're still making it bigger. They're putting up an indoor arena, training ground, and it's just crazy. But, you know, we're offering that contract to Johnny Evans. So it's going to be fine, you know.
Fucking reckless! That's fucking reckless!
I mean, that was literally the sort of deep sigh when I was reading that earlier. I went, let's move on with life, honestly. Donny van der Beek, we spoke about him earlier on, that he could be going to France. He could also be headed to Turkey too. Or instead, rather. He's not going to be in two places at once. That would be impressive. According to Laurie Whitwell, Galatasaray have approached Manchester United for Donny van der Beek. Lorient have also shown interest, but talks of Galatasaray are more advanced at this stage. Another unnamed club has made contact too. It was reported earlier today, wasn't it, that the French club had agreed a deal in principle with United for Donny, although the classic problem, they hadn't even spoken to the player. And they did think that there was going to be difficulty in convincing him to actually go through with that move. And that looks like, unfortunately, that's probably going to be the case for Lorient, certainly. Galatasaray would make a bit more sense, considering the report earlier on suggested that he had some other more ambitious clubs on the table. Galatasaray certainly would be one of them. So that would be a good move for him. Again, I look at it and I say, hey, can we get any money from that? I mean, I don't know if they're suggesting that if the Donny deal has any impact on getting Sofian Amrabat. If we're talking about putting 2 million euros together to try and loan him, then surely every little firmly will count in bringing him in. Perhaps one would think. So Donny could be heading to Galatasaray. As I mentioned earlier on, good for him. Good for him. I think that's a great move for him. If he could get that, he just needs to be playing regularly. That's all he needs at this point. We need the money as well. That's what we need. We need the money. We need the cash. We need something. And maybe if Donny does go, that can just get us over the line. I don't know. Honestly, it's just. I mean, I am actually really spent realistically. Starlord says Champions League football. That's 2, and that's true as well. And hopefully, any loan fee, we should be talking, when we're talking to Fiorentina, right? We should be saying to them, how much do you want for a loan fee? And if they say, we want, 4 million euros, 5 million euros, and we want this obligation to buy, we then go to Galatasaray and say, give us at least, 4 million euros, 5 million euros. Get the money. Get the money, and then we can have an obligation to buy for next year. Get players in. Get players through the door. We need reinforcements. And also, the target's been there. And it does go back to it. But it does actually open up why previously this summer, or the last few weeks certainly, we're going, this Amrabat thing's gone really quiet, hasn't it? It's gone really, really silent. And there were those reports, maybe United aren't going for him, blah, blah, blah. And then when they put the first bid in, you go, oh. It's like when you're playing Football Manager and you go, we've got no money. And then you start trying to get creative and that kind of stuff. And then you realise, well, maybe I'll just put a bid in to try and unsettle him. Or something like that. And they'll try and force it through or something like that. I don't know. And I don't think United know at this point, realistically, what they're to do. Getting the goalkeeper, getting Cucurella, and maybe talks are ongoing. I mean, I really hope that we pull something out of it, honestly. But as Araya says there, full on hopium. I mean, I'm overdosing. It's just gotta breathe. And Hannibal. Looks like Hannibal could be moving out on loan as well. This was also reported by Laurie Whitwell from The Athletic, saying Sevilla and Everton have held discussions with Manchester United about Hannibal Mejbri, but he is seen as a player with the potential to make an impression under Erik ten Hag this season, so he could potentially stay. Well, I would say to that is, if he has the potential to make an impression under Erik ten Hag and he could play, how close is he to playing? Realistically. I mean, if we were looking for legs in the midfield, why has he not been involved so far? Get him on. Do something. I was actually impressed with Hannibal in pre-season, honestly. And the games that he played in, I thought, particularly when he was playing sort of with the kids against Wrexham, I thought, this guy looks a cut above them. He looks like he's matured more than them. When you're watching youth football and sometimes they'll play against people that are a bit older and you go, he's a step above them at this point. Had a loan spell at Birmingham last year. Looks more ready for senior football. And maybe that's not at Man United, but those clubs that are coming in, Sevilla, they won the Europa League. I know it's not really the Sevilla that it was last season because they're selling all their players. Their whole squad's up for sale, by the way, Sevilla. But if he went there, he'd be playing Champions League football. They're in the Champions League. So I would say, forget Everton. Go to Sevilla, even though they're a club a little bit in turmoil. So at Everton, go to Sevilla, play in the Champions League, build up your experience. For me, that would be a good move for him. But if they're suggesting, well, then he could play under Erik ten Hag this season, prove it. Get him involved. Because like I keep saying, we need players. We need people in midfield as well. And it does make you wonder too, this Henderson deal that's gone through, 15 plus 5, where is that money? Where is it? I don't know. I really don't know. And I know, Owen, you're being negative. Owen, like someone said to me the other day on X, support the players. I'm sure this is really helping them. And then I went on their profile and it was filled with them being negative. People in glass houses, by the way. And And it's not going to stop me supporting the players or anything like that. But I don't see how you can look at, just again, the roller coaster of emotions in the space of just a few hours. Just a few hours of, we're going in for Amrabat, and everyone's, yes, we're going in for him. We're going in for him. We're finally going to do it. And that turns into, well, about that. About the money we put in. And maybe some last-minute outgoings. Maybe a loan for Donny, a loan for Hannibal. The Henderson money, we actually realise we can use it. But just look at like what is going on at the moment. Look at, again, this first Amrabat bid that was put in. Look at, been linked to Højbjerg, been linked to Cucurella. I mean, we're already in that stage. Flex and myself were doing it this morning. I'm doing it now. Where you're going, oh, it's better than nobody. Better than no one, innit? And we are in that territory. We're getting cast-offs. We're getting cast-offs from other clubs of players they don't want. Chelsea don't want Cucurella this season. Højbjerg, Ange doesn't want him. And I know we can get into the discussion of, is he better than Fred? Isn't he better than Fred? Let's park that to one side. Let's park whether they're better than what we've got or all this kind of stuff. Park it to one side and just think of the overall sort of bigger picture of it, of the profile of player we're going for. And it's desperation settings. And I'm not saying don't get them, because we find ourselves in a situation now where we have to make the best of it and we need bodies through the door, particularly at left back. We don't have one. We need a left back. Midfielder, we need a midfielder. There's 2 days left of the window. There's only a certain profile of player available. But when you step back and once again go, United have found themselves in the same situation again. And maybe more fool us. More fool me for sitting here and being annoyed, because it's kind of par for the course, isn't it? It's kind of it's normal at this point, realistically. Regarding Cucurella, I've also seen that he's starting for Chelsea tonight against Wimbledon. The last thing, knowing our luck, he'll go down with an injury, pull his calf or something like that, and we'll still sign him. We got him. When's he available? 4 weeks. He's going to be out for a while. Knowing our luck, like. Thing is, I say that facetiously. You never know at this point with United. Genuinely, you never know. So, yes, let me check on this poll very quickly here. It's been in for nearly 15 minutes, over 700 votes. The question was, which deal is more likely? And it got a bit closer, actually, which is quite interesting. The 4 options were Amrabat to United, Gravenberch to Liverpool, both or neither. And the one that people are saying is most likely is Gravenberch. But only 38%, 37% of you say you think Amrabat to United is more likely. So potentially people still have faith, which is good. Good to still have faith. How do I feel? As I mentioned before, I'm a bit 50-50 on it at the moment. I'm 50-50 on whether or not it can happen. Talks are ongoing, which is positive, and I really hope I'm back here either later or tomorrow or before Friday and say, there's been a breakthrough, they found the money, it's good, they're going in this direction. My concern is that with how low our first sort of verbal proposal was, there's a heck of a middle ground to kind of figure out here at this point. So whether or not we get to that, I don't know. I hope so, certainly. But there you go. Anyway, guys, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. A bit shorter, but this is kind of what it's going to be. I think for the next couple of days, it's going to be the sort of news updates. Obviously, there'll still be the normal time slots, the 9 o'clocks, the 6 o'clocks and stuff like that. But when stuff happens, we'll be here. We'll be chatting. Certainly, I will be going through them, trying to keep you up to date as possible, give you some thoughts, give you some opinions. And as I mentioned, on top of that, there's the previews and all the crossovers coming as well before the game at the Emirates at the weekend too. So there's plenty of stuff to get into. Anyway, guys, as I mentioned, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. And easy for me to say. I forget it. I'm out of here. Peace.